I talk about small upgrades and tweaks a lot on this channel, especially when it comes to vibration control. Well, recently I stumbled across a company that claims to both control vibrations and transform your sound. So I reached out to them and asked if I could try one of their products. And instead, they sent me 3. So, are they the real deal? Let's find out. Now this is the AVA equipment isolator from Stack Audio. Now I've done videos on vibration pucks and isolation platforms in the past, so when I ran across these, it seemed, like a no-brainer, but also more of the same, right? I mean, it's vibration control. I mean, it's not glamorous. And really, what innovations can you come about, or what innovations can you come up with to improve upon things that have already been done, unless you come up with, anti-gravity or something, which I'm sure somebody out there is, probably Pangea Audio if you're listening, Steve. So anyway, I was very intrigued. Now, I mentioned that Stack Audio sent me 3 of their products, one being this AVA EQ. They also sent me a Serene stabilizer and their Serene stabilizer mat. Now let's look first at the AVA EQ, as that's what I said I was very interested in. That's what made me reach out to the company, especially for my turntable. But these can be used beneath any piece of audio gear. Now I have my turntable sitting on an isolation shelf from Pangea Audio. I just mentioned them a couple minutes ago, so they're getting some love in this channel. Anyway, I did an entire video on the shelf, and it was the best isolation improvement investment I've ever made. Hands down, seriously, that I've ever made. Now that removed my Thorens from the equipment shelf that it was sitting on. Now, our floor at the time that I made that video had some issues, so anytime there was vibrations, it would go through the equipment stand or the equipment shelf that it's on and reach the stylus. So removing it all helped. But there's always the chance of tiny vibrations in the wall. So for the past couple of years, I've been using these little isolation pads, I guess you would call them, isolation pads from Sound Deck. But I always felt that they were lacking in something just because of the feel, and I don't quite get the science behind them. So I stumbled across Stack Audio and again had to check them out. There's more to these than really meets the eye, and the technology behind it does make sound sense. The core technologies here are particle impact dampening and silicone absorption. Yes, that's what it is. I know, science. Saying things like particle impact dampening and silicone absorption really sounds like pseudoscience and snake oil, but I only had to spend about 10 minutes of research to learn about the science. And it's basically this. Each isolator comes with a small amount of tungsten powder to dissipate vibrations. I've seen many analogies that equate it to a ball in sand. A ball bounces just fine on a hard surface. Toss it in a sand pit or toss the ball in a sand pit and it stops dead. To further prevent, tiny vibrations from reaching, say, your stylus or sensitive equipment like tubes, there's a little silicone membrane right here that serves as like a shock absorber. Between absorption and dampening or dampening? Well, between absorption and that, you basically are eliminating those tiny vibrations. So what difference do these make? Well, quite a lot, actually. For me, it was a bit more bass. Now, I say bit only because my turntable already sits on an isolation shelf on the wall. But if your equipment or your turntable sits on an equipment rack or maybe a shelf where other equipment resides, like, say, your amp or, God forbid, your speakers, which I know you can't get away from that in some cases, but I think that your experience would be a bit more profound. You would really notice the bass and probably even more clarity. Now, results will vary. If you have, say, an entry-level setup, these are probably a bit of overkill. I mean, they're not cheap. I think for 4 of these, it was a couple $100. So if you have a, say, mid-level or high-end setup, these will make a difference. The isolators are designed for different weight classes. So, take some time to figure out how much your equipment weighs and decide which one of these models on their website you'll choose. They also sell a version for speakers, and it comes with a 60-day guarantee, which really makes this a whole lot easier to try them out. And they now have a permanent place beneath my turntable, one in each of the four corners in the exact spot that the original feet were. They blend in really well, and this makes Mandy happy because for her, it's really all about aesthetics. So let's move on. What else do I have here? The Serene turntable mat. Now there's a video on their website where they go into the development of the mat and the different materials that they tried out. But long story short, they settled on silicone. Now silicone is less likely to generate things like static. It's also reduces resonance and it will absorb vibrations. It also provides a secure grip. Now in the past, I've read on forums and such where people have complained about the use of silicone mats, saying that it kind of dampens the liveliness of the music, that it absorbs too much vibration and thus makes the dynamics not as present. Now, I didn't hear any of that, and I swapped the mat out a number of times, going from my cork rubber hybrid mat that I've used for the past 2 years now, 2 to 3 years, and swapping it out with the Serene mat. And I have to say, I listened to Fleetwood Mac's Tusk a number of times, and I didn't feel like the Serene mat did anything at all negative to the sound. And that song, Tusk, actually has been my go-to song recently for testing out equipment. When it gets to the part where the band goes Tusk, it's very dynamic, and it was dynamic on both my cork rubber mat and the same with the Serene mat. Another good thing, at least for me, about the Serene mat, it was the exact same size as far as height and all that compared to my cork rubber mat, which is extremely important because of VTA, that's vertical tracking angle. So if you use a mat that's too thin or too thick compared to how your turntable's set up, you're going to affect that vertical tracking angle, and it could adversely affect your sound if it's quite a bit. The Serene mat is 3 millimeters thick, so it's worth a few moments to check yours out. Now, if you have a tone arm that'll let you adjust for height, well, then you're all set. You don't have to worry about it. Another thing that I think helps with dynamics with the Serene mat are these. If you look closely, there are 4 little nubs here. They help absorb vibrations, but I also feel that they prevent full contact, which makes sense that it would reduce the damping effect other silicone mats are said to have. Again, I did not hear any of the damping effect, or I still want to say dampening, but I didn't hear any of that effect, and maybe that design feature is why. Now, I'm completely on board with the AVA equipment isolator. I'm sold on it. This thing is great, or these things are great. Now, the Serene mat, again, my cork rubber mat does a great job at isolation. My turntable sits on a shelf, so I didn't notice a huge difference. But if you have problems with vibrations, even slightly, then the Serene mat will definitely help. So what about this? What about this guy? This Serene stabilizer. It really looks like a record weight. But there really isn't any weight to this, so how does it stabilize? Well, it's not meant to stabilize in the traditional sense of adding weight to the record. What this uses is a very thin silicone membrane that fits over the spindle. Packed inside are rubber particles. The theory is that when vibrations are present, they interact with the membrane and they excite the particles that are contained inside, thus dissipating any vibrations, especially micro vibrations. Now, for the past few years, I've been using this, the Bren 1 record weight. It's a heavy, hefty hunk of aluminum which helps flatten any concave warps a record may have. Now, I've been using this on every record that I play, except those records that are 180 grams or above, because it's a bit too much. So I started using this on my heavier records. Do I hear a difference? So the jury is still out on this, but I have to say I do like it. I like the fact that it's not heavy. It's not putting any extra stress on my turntable. And if it helps with micro vibrations, all the better. Where do we land with the 3 products that Stack Audio sent me? Well, I'm going to focus on audible audio improvements. So how about the Serene stabilizer? I think I need more time with it. As I said, I'm going to keep using it. I have no reason not to. So I'll have more on this at a later date. You'll see it again on the channel. But I will say I've been using it exclusively lately. And that's about it. So if you found this information helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And also, thank you for watching. If you have any comments, throw them below. And there's also a newsletter, by the way, that comes out every Saturday morning. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. So thank you for watching. And until next time, take care of yourself, enjoy your records, and I'll see you soon.